Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Gopijana Balava Girivanadari. Sing it like I sing it. Gopijana Balava Girivanadari. Jasodanandana Vrajanaranjana. Jasodanandana Vrajanaranjana. Chamunitiravanatari. Chamunitiravanatari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Gopijana Balava Girivanadari. Jasodanandana Vrajanaranjana. Chamunitiravanatari. Jamuna Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Gopijana Balava Girivanadari. Jasodanandana Vrajanaranjana. Chamunitiravanatari. Jamunitiravanatari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Jai Vishnupada Paramahansa Pariva Jagacharya Siddha Shisham Divine Grace Abhay Charan Bhakti Vedanta Sai Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Jagaguru Srila Prabhupada Ki. Ananda Kura Vaishnava Vrinda Ki. Charya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki. Prem Shri Gaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki. Say Radha Krishna Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki. Vrindavan Dham Ki. Mathura Dham Ki. Dwarka Dham Ki. Navridam ki, Jagannapuridam ki, Jamunamaya ki, Gangamaya ki, Tulsi Maharani ki, Bhakti Devi ki, Samvita Bhakti Vindiki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Say Siddhara Giridhari ki, Shri Krishna Sankirtana Yogi ki, Gopremanande. All glory to the sum of devotees. All glory to the sum of devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glories to the divine Lotus Sita, Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Krishna Swadamo Pakate Damaganari Bisaha Kaladasa Dashamesha Parana Kodidodita Naranamaskichanam Chaivam Narotama Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet. The Bhagavatam is burned as the sun. It is arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied with knowledge, religion, etc. Persons who have lost their vision to the dense darkness of the age of Kali should get light out of this Purana. Did I say before beginning our study Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should first offer respects to the personality of God in Narayan, to the Narayan Rishi, the supremmost human being, the goddess of living Mother Saraswati, the author Srila Vyasadeva, and my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Pura Shrestha Hi O Sadayo Brahmana Ya Vishampate Bhujamana Maya Drista Asadbir Ad. There's some misprinting here. No, there's some drip water on it. It's missing a few letters. So, Adrita. Vratahi Parashristahi Ausadayo Brahmanaya Vishampate Bhujamana Maya Drista Asadbir Adrita Vratahi Parashristahi Parashristahi Sadayo Brahmanaya Vishampate Bhujamana Maya Drista Asadbir Adrita Vritaha Vritihi. Sorry about that one. Purashristahi Sadayo Brahmanaya Vishampate Ujamana Maya Drista Asadbir Adrita Vritahi. Sadayo Brahmanaya Visampata Bhujamana Maya Drista Asadbir Vratihi Purashristahi Sadayo Brahmanayo Visampatai Bhujamana Maya Drista Purajista Hyosado Brahmanaya Vishampate Bhujamana Maya Drista asadbirajita vratihi. Vaishnavis. Purashristahyo sadayo brahmanaya vishampate bhujamana maya drista asadbirajita vritahi. Okay, pura, past. Shrista, created. He, certainly. Osadaya, herbs and food grains. Brahmana, by Lord Brahma. Ya, all those which. Vishampate, O king. What does that actually mean? Is it like Visham? Pate, pate means Lord. Okay. Bhujamana, being enjoyed. Maya, by me. Drista, seen. Asadbi, by non-devotees. Adrita vratahi, devoid of all spiritual activities. Who's speaking? Anyone know who's speaking other than Dravida Prabhu? Yeah, Mother Earth. Who's she speaking to? Other than Dravida and Balaram? King Prithu. Okay. And what's happened? What's the issue? Okay. Oh, thank you. Hare Krishna. Yeah, she's withholding all the seeds, all the foodstuffs, all the production of the earth, everything, the natural commodities we depend on. And Prithu, as a king, has a duty to defend her. First thing government has to do is provide safety, and then security, and then livelihood. That's a good government. Both you can get mugged on the street, and everybody's struggling to what does the Prabhupada say? To scrape out an existence in a pigeonhole in a skyscraper building. So anyway, so that's the scene. My dear king, and then this is Bhumi speaking to Prithu Maharaj. My dear king, the seeds, roots, herbs, and grains which were created by Lord Brahma in the past are now being used by non-devotees who are devoid of all spiritual understanding. So now she's making the case why she's withholding. Mother Earth is withholding. She's saying, well, here they're all rogues and rascals, misusing everything. So also you say, my dear king, the seeds, roots, herbs, and grains which were created by Lord Brahma in the past are now being used by non-devotees who are devoid of all spiritual understanding. Purport. Lord Brahma created this material world for the use of the living entities, but it was created according to a plan that all living entities who might come into it to dominate it for sense gratification would be given directions by Lord Brahma in the Vedas, in order that they might ultimately leave it and return home back to Godhead. All necessities grown on earth, namely fruits, flowers, trees, grains, animals, and animal byproducts, were created for use in sacrifice for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. However, the planet Earth, in the shape of a cow, herein submits that all these utilities are being used by non-devotees who have no plans for spiritual understanding. Although there are immense potencies within the earth for production of grains, fruits, flowers, the production is checked by the earth itself when it's misused by non-devotees who have no spiritual goals. I always give the example of this Coachella Valley out here, which is one of the biggest producers, Yuma, which there's humans and humans. So out here in Yuma and Central Valley, that whole thing, that was all desert, sand. People died out there for lack of water. They could, what do you call it, diverted the Colorado River water, and it became, just by adding water to the desert, poof. The Sahara used to be, the Sahara Desert, you picture the sands and the camels, and it used to be lush greenery. Oh yeah. Timbuktu was a lush, not just an oasis, but just you would draw water. So it's all the potency is there. You just have to, well, like I say, just add water. But they can't create water, although they're working on it. However, the planet Earth that we read. However, the planet Earth, in the shape of a cow, here that we read. Although that we read also. Everything belongs to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and everything can be used for His satisfaction. Things should not be used for sense gratification of the living entities. That is the whole plan of the material nature according to the directions of the material nature. In this verse, the word asadbi and adritavrata are important. The words asadbi means non-devotees. Non-devotees have been described in Bhagavad Gita as duskritinas, miscreants, mudas, asses and rascals, naradamas, lowest of mankind, and maya apratagyana, those who have lost their knowledge to the power of illusory energy. All these persons are asat, non-devotees. Non-devotees are also called grihavrata, whereas the devotee is called dritavrata. The whole Vedic plan is that the misguided, conditioned souls who have come to the Lord, have come to lord it over material nature, should be trained to become dritavrata. This means that they should take a vow to satisfy their senses or enjoy material life only by satisfying the senses of the Supreme Lord. Activities intended to satisfy the senses of the Supreme Lord Krishna are called Krishnarte, Kila Chaitasa. Chesta. This indicates that one can attempt all kinds of work, but one should do it to satisfy Krishna. This is described in Bhagavad Gita's Yagyartha Karma. The word Yagya indicates Lord Vishnu. We should work only for His satisfaction. In the modern time, Kali Yuga, however, people have forgotten Vishnu altogether, and they conduct their activities for sense gratification. Such people will gradually become poverty-stricken, for they cannot use things which are to be enjoyed by the Supreme Lord for their own sense gratification. If they continue like this, there will ultimately be a state of poverty, and no grains, fruits, or flowers will be produced. Indeed, it is stated in the 12th canto of the Bhagavatam that at the end of Kali Yuga, people will be so polluted that there is no longer any grains, wheat, sugarcane, or milk. Om Ganata Mirandasya Gana Ganasalakaya Jakshusham Vitangina. Tazari Shri Gurave Namaha. So, let's see here. Before we use something, shouldn't we know its purpose? Suppose I take a flute and I want to use it as a hammer. Bang, 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 bang. What Bhakti Glenn, what would you say to such a person? And then the person says to you, Bhakti Glenn, this is not working driving in this nail. It's all bent up and I'm not getting any. What would you say to me? It's the wrong tool. That's not the purpose. The flute is made, you got to use the right tool. The flute is meant for another purpose. If you use the wrong thing for the wrong purpose and you wonder why it's not working out, shouldn't you understand the purpose of things? But people they willy-nilly, headlong rush. They come out of the womb and they just try to stick everything in their mouth. From there on in, how to titillate their senses, to stop. Wait a minute. Is there a design? Is there a purpose? Is there a reason? If this world is simply meant for our enjoyment, what is a logical question? Hey, and if they offer some nod to piety, that, well, there's God, and He's created this world for us to enjoy. Yahoo! What's the first, other than Dravida, what is the first logical question? Yeah. Then why isn't it more enjoyable? This is the best you could come up with? Birth, death, disease, old age, Hurricane Dorian. There's so many things. I mean, we're actually in a very precarious position. I don't want to spend time on that. But our position in this world is very precarious. You get a little bug. Go to the doctor and find out you got lung cancer and you got 6 weeks to live. Well, where'd that come from? So the Bhumi Dev is giving the formula here, that this is human form of life. It requires, the world is designed for reciprocation. Why? Why? If you don't ask, what do they say, like if you're a manager and something's going wrong, you should ask why 5 times. Well, the boxes aren't coming off the assembly line right. Well, why? Well, they're all bent. Well, why? Well, when they come out of the machine, it's not working. Why? Oh, well, it turns out there's a screw loose in the machine. Okay, well, let's tighten the machine and we've solved the problem. But you got to find out why. You got to ask why and get to the root of the thing. People don't ask why. They just, let's enjoy. So, especially, today's class is infused by the, what would you call it? I'm trying to get the right word. It doesn't come to my mind right now. It's in the back of my mind. But scattered, not flotsam and jetsam, but all like, you see these scooters just cast adrift, where they drunken at 2 o'clock at night. They fell off the thing, and and you see the beer cans and where they vomited, and then there was some guy standing on. I was driving over here. This guy has had a rough night. You can tell. He's on his phone. His hair's his pants are on backwards. And he's trying to find his keys. There was a guy here who was trying to, some drunk Indian guy trying to left his phone here, and it's just. Yeah, spent the night in one of our cars or something. Just completely. Why? Without even asking. So, this world is created to oblige us to reciprocate. Why have we come to this world? Why are we in this world? Is this a great place? Should we be proud of the fact that we're in this world? Anybody with a brain already got out. I mean, you are all great souls who've come, taken birth to serve Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission. Therefore, you've appeared just to deliver them. But I can certainly speak for myself. Everybody, it's the bottom of the barrel. Everybody else got out. We're stumbling around here, blinded by Kali Yuga. And the turning point, like in a disease, when a fever breaks, somebody's completely delirious. You ever known somebody who's got a high fever and they're completely delirious, and then the fever breaks? There's a turning point, and they come out of with their bewildered, feverish dream, and say, "Oh, wait a minute, I'm on my the fever breaks." So what is that turning point where the fever breaks? What in the Bhagavatam is it? I'm trying to think of it. It's the beginning of the 2nd canto. The first step of God realization. What is that first step in God realization, other than Dravida? If we call the material nature Mother Earth, what mood does that engender? If oh, come on, take a guess. A dependence. That I'm dependent on Mother Earth, that I have to serve, I have to work with. This world is, the mood of people now is a classic square peg in a round hole. They are trying to swim upstream and wonder why it's not working. So the first step of God, that's what this Bhumi is saying. You've got to reciprocate. Like some people say, hey, work with me here, I'm trying to help you, work with me. So there is an order, there's a pattern, there's a design. And the whole purpose of the thing, the why to the root of the thing, is because we've come to this world because we do not want to serve. We do not want to cooperate. Hitler took the swastika, which is a Vedic sign, and it represents, amongst other things, they say it's meant to invoke auspiciousness and all of that. But one of the purports of the swastika is that it means that everything is revolving around what? Krishna. It's revolving around the center, Krishna, and that's what invokes auspiciousness. And Hitler said, very good, but it goes my way. It actually goes, the Nazi swastika is opposite. I think it's a classic asura. It's opposite of the Vedic swastika. So, and it's off a kilter. They've got it askew also, you know. It's opposite and askew, off kilter. So the root disease, the fever, the meningitis in the brain is this: the world goes my way and I want to enjoy. It's not that, and Krishna, it's not that Krishna doesn't want us to enjoy. When he says, be happy, just learn to cooperate, be humble, that you're dependent, develop a sense of service. Because that sense of service, that's what needs to be revived in order for us to go back home, back to Godhead. This is not our real home. Anyway, so let's push on. And just a simple thing. I mean, when you act, I was saying our tenuous position. When you actually think about it, if it stops raining, we can't create rain, and if it stops raining, what happens? The whole thing, the whole show comes to a screeching halt, simply without rain. The whole society, as Prabhupada points out, you can't eat nuts and bolts. If you don't have grains, the whole thing, which all depends on rain, the whole thing comes to a screeching halt. It's just one of the most amazing bluffs. People have swallowed one of the most amazing bluffs. I think it was Goebbels, whatever is Hitler's propaganda ministry. And anyone know his famous mantra? If you tell a lie loud enough, you were going to say it, Balaram? If you tell a lie loud enough and long enough, people will believe it. Just keep telling. If that's all they hear, North Korea, they think they got the best place in the world. They're living off grass in some places. And they think that they're in a, because that's all the only message they hear. So you tell a lie loud enough. So it's an incredible bluff that we've got a great society, we've got everything all worked out, we're on the edge of solving this and that. There was even a book, The End of History, that's going to be when the communist, when the Soviet Union collapsed, America was the what do you call it? The Atlas astride the globe, and it was going to be it was the end of history. There was no more going to be any conflict. It was going to be the American century, and everything was going to turn out great. How did that work out? ISIS. Everything's getting blown up. More people have been killed by guerrilla warfare since the end of World War II than the entire World War I and World War II. Yeah. All these little, massacres here, massacres there, Africa, South America, it's guerrilla war, that guerrilla war. My point is, the simple point I'm trying to make, and because Prabhupada mentions, well, let me ask you this. So, what is that what is that freedom? What is that independence? What is that? Govinda Das compares our existence in this world to what? Yeah, a round lotus leaf, and it's kind of waxy. And if you drop water on it, it beads up, and the water shifts a little, it slides right off. We are in an extremely precarious position. Few down days on the market, poof. There goes your whole savings. People slave all of their life, put their money in the IRA, or, the independent retirement account, or they put it in their, whatever it is, what's it called at your business? There's a name for your savings account. 401k, put your money away. Pension plan, poof. Bad month on the stock market, gone, dust. So, we can go in so many ways. So the whole thing is, and people will say, well, why doesn't it just
The whole point is that this world, why does God let us suffer like this? If it's all suffering, why isn't it more fun? Why, why is there birth, death, disease, and old age? Why is there the hard struggle? What kind of God is this? It's one of the reasons people become an atheist. It's one of the main reasons. Prabhupada gives a classic example. Anyway, I don't want to go too far afield. But the point is, if you don't, like the flute and the hammer, if you don't understand the purpose of the thing, and why, if there's God, why is there so much suffering? Is God cruel and capricious? This is the best he could do? Is he vindictive? What's the reason? Why doesn't he just come here and straighten it out? And why doesn't he just make it great? Why don't we have the Garden of Eden? Why are we laden with guilt and fear? What's going on here? It's the reason people become atheists. Because this world is not our real home. We are determined. We are determined to headlong jump off the cliff. We want to separate from Krishna. We want to enjoy separately from Krishna. The pleasing Krishna is so nice that it's even nicer than being Krishna. That's the whole message of one of the essential messages of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Even more fun than being God. People think, well, geez, if I could be the center of everything, if everybody was bowing down, everybody served me, if I could live eternally with a perfect body and all my, now you eat too much, they drink too much, they throw up, too much sex, they become, impotent, or, their brain turns to vanilla pudding and they're at Alzheimer's at 14 or whatever it is, Well, that's a little early, but certainly 50, 60, memory starts to go. Why? Because they just completely fritzed out their whole mental capacity. So, why? Because suppose all of that was erased. And we lived if this world was eternal, if it was the kingdom of God, sometimes they say we want the kingdom of God without God. Suppose we had the kingdom of God and we were God. Amen, that's it. What's actually better than that? Being a servant of Krishna. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Krishna wants to know, what is Radharani experiencing? She's having more fun than me. What is she enjoying? So he knows he becomes Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Krishna becomes Srimati Radharani, which is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And it confirms that serving Krishna is even sweeter than being Krishna. So in this material world, which nobody's able to do, and that's Krishna's mercy that we're not able to do it. Who was the guy in India? He's got the biggest house in the world. Ambani? What's his name? Mukesh Ambani in Bombay. I've seen it. It's a huge thing. He's got rooms he's never been in. He's got a bowling alley. He's got a bowling alley for the household servants. And he's got his own bowling alley. He's got a bowling alley for his kids. He's got 3 bowling alleys in the house. Huh? Yeah, so many helipads, nothing. That's so many helipads. And he had a fight with his brother, I think, because they became so envious of each other that now the business is split and his brother's building a bigger house. Wants to be taller, look down on him, So, suppose even you actually accomplish it. Even you get it. Even you get everything under your control eternally with senses that are ever fresh. The simple bhakta, patram pushpam palam toyam, offering some little incense, decorating Krishna, he's enjoying or she's enjoying more. And therefore, even to become the king in this world is not the best thing. Krishna is the best friend. And therefore, Krishna wants to give us the best thing. We're roaming around in this dark, dank, material world squeezing out a little pleasure. And Krishna says, no. If the child wants to play all day long, suppose the child wants to play all day, and the Balaram, is that you who gave the example, Mukunda Maharaj's example that Prabhupada gave to him about the woman who spoils the child? I think it was you. Yeah, bite the ear. Yeah, it was you, Balaram. So the point is that if Krishna lets us, he will be doing the greatest disservice. And Prabhupada explains that when we first come to this material world, we start off first class, Prabhupada says. How do we start off in this material world? Lord Brahma. And who can estimate the refined, powerful senses and experience of Lord Brahma? I mean, these people, they go by what they call music. You just, says in the Bhagavatam, it sounds like machinery. And they got the bass lane turned, the whole car is vibrating, boom, boom. And the lyrics, I don't want to just be trite, but you can't even say it in mixed company, the things that they say. It's just so low class as far as musicality or poetry or sophisticated themes. It's just animalistic grunting, practically speaking. And you compare that to Lord Brahma. So we start off as Lord Brahma with all facility for beautiful, Krishna says, all right, you want to be separate from me? Give it a shot. And I'll give you all facility. But it doesn't hit the spot. It's like the itch that cannot be scratched. So Krishna, if he lets us stay in this material world, he's not giving us the best thing. Krishna has a duty to give us the best thing. It's like if you find out that someone you loved all of your life, and it turns out that they grossly cheated you. I don't know. I'm trying to think of an example. People come, it's not really appropriate, it's not the best example, but people grow up and they find out that they're actually adopted and nobody ever told them. People become angry when that kind of thing happens. You never told me, or they live a lie that, whatever. There were those children in Argentina that their parents were killed and then they were adopted because their parents were leftists, and the parents were killed and the kids were adopted by military families, parts of the dictatorship that killed their parents. Who couldn't have kids, they gave them the kids. So they were raised in the military dictatorship by their parents who actually killed their original parents. That's talk about a mental twist when you wake, when you find all that out. So we find out that Krishna gave us all facility to stay in this material world, but he didn't give us the best thing. We'll actually be angry at Krishna. So this material world is, and if you think about how amazing it is, because actually how long are we in this material world? We don't want to enjoy, we don't want to serve Krishna. We become set, we forget you. I'm leaving, I'm going off on my own. Krishna says, okay. He gives us Brahma Loka. He lets us try it all to our best. Lets us have all facility. If he doesn't try to save us, if he lets us just stay, if he doesn't give us the best thing, if there's the spiritual world, you read the literature of the Goswamis. Read Shiva Ram Maharaj's book. There's so many nice books about the pastimes. Read Krishna book. That's where we're meant to be. How do they tell time in the spiritual world? Of course, in the spiritual world, they don't actually, there's only the threat of demons. But you know how they tell time? How the coward boys tell time? They go out in the morning, some demon comes, Krishna kills him, oh, time for lunch. Then they play some more, Krishna goes under the demon, okay, time to go home. Just where do you want to start? That when I was a kid in Disneyland, there was a place called Tom Sawyer's Island. What time is it? Is that a 1 or a 7? There was time. And I remember being a kid, and you go out there on a boat, and you could break loose from your parents. And it had caves, all these caves you go in, and you could hide, and you could spook your friends, and it was a maze to get out, but then you got your way out, and then there was a big tree that you could run, and this and that on, but the branches were wide enough, and it had swings and slides. I remember being a kid. I went there for a birthday party. I was like 7 years old. We were in heaven. Couldn't get us off the island. But you read Govardhan Hill, all the caves you can hide. The stones are cold in the winter. I mean, in the summer they're cooling, and in the winter they're warm. As much as there's a variance, just because there's a variety. There's streams of nectar. There's a tree that the cowherd boys play on. It's described by the 6 Goswamis that it's got. The branches are wide enough. You can hide in the branches. There's all you can make. When you're a kid, did you ever make a fort in a tree as a boy? I mean, if you didn't, you had a deprived childhood. Were there any trees in El Cajon? There must have been a few trees in El Cajon. But every kid, every boy, I mean, maybe the girls do it too, I don't know, makes a fort. Did you ever make a fort when you were a kid and hide in a fort? So the cowherd boys, they're doing that all day long. They got, in Govardhan Hills, creating all facility for that. You can slide off it, land in the Jamuna. I mean, just snacks everywhere, roots flavored like all kinds of things, trees that give whatever kind of fruit. That's where we belong. And Krishna has a duty to get us back there. And the beginning point is to realize, wait a minute, I'm dependent on Krishna, and actually, if I serve Krishna, Krishna provides, and that reciprocation has a bob or a sweet taste in it. That's the whole point. So Bhumi Dev is doing her duty here. She's restricting to get them to turn to that breaking the fever, that point of realizing, wait a minute, I'm dependent on an all-merciful Supreme Lord, and Krishna's things should be used in Krishna's service. And it's not bitter. Like and we'll end here, I promise. Robin's Island, we're off the track, but I'll get back to it. Who's our friend? He's passed away. In South Africa, Nelson Mandela. Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj told me this. He's sitting on a stage in South Africa. We have a lot of temples, movement is very strong there in South Africa. And Nelson Mandela, as part of the Rainbow Nation, showing that, Pantita Samadarshana, let us all get along. And, it doesn't matter what your color is, we're all part of the same family then. So he came to break the walls of apartheid. Blacks didn't associate with Hindus. Hindus didn't associate with, blacks or white. Everybody's in their own little box. That's the meaning of apartheid. You stay in your own little box and you don't cross-pollinate. So to break down that barrier after the fall of apartheid, Nelson Mandela, the fall of the nation, used to go to the Afrikaners events. He used to go to the blacks used to go to the Swahili, used to go to the, Zulus, used to go everywhere. So he's sitting on the stage and a devotee is speaking and he's sitting next to Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. And the devotee speaking quotes a Sanskrit verse. Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj told me this personally. Nelson Mandela quietly says the verse to himself. The devotee says another verse, and the devotee, the speaker, they're sitting, dignitaries on the stage, speaker, audience. So the guy behind the podium had a little trouble, said the first half of the verse couldn't. Nelson Mandela quietly finished the second half of the verse. So Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj said, you know Bhagavad Gita? So the person's talking there in the back. So they went back and forth. Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj said they went on for 20 minutes. The only reason they stopped was Nelson Mandela had to speak. Bhakti Tirtha would say Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj would say the first part of a verse. Nelson Mandela would finish it. Nelson Mandela would start a verse. Bhakti Tirtha. And they went on for 20 minutes just throwing slokas from Bhagavad Gita back and forth. So afterwards, Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, in so much ecstasy, said, how do you know Bhagavad Gita? Turns out they sent him to Robin's Island, and we'll get to the point I was trying to make. Robin's Island, it's like in Alcatraz. You could hear, in Alcatraz and in Robin's Island, you could hear, when the currents and the winds were right, you could hear people enjoying in the yacht club on the mainland. You could hear the voices, sometimes you could hear the music, and you could see the lights. So here you were, but you couldn't get it. The water was separating, And so they did it to break them, to break the will of the, what do they call it? ANC, to break their will. They put them out there on Robin's Island. And you know what their job was? What they had them do? They had them break rocks. Actually, Nelson Mandela's eyesight was, because it was white with a bright sun, and all, I don't know, it was limestone island. So, they had them out there all day long in the sun, looking at the white rock, and they powdered it. Their job was to hammer it into dust. And then at the end of the day, they used to take whatever they'd hammered, and then the guards would take it in wheelbarrows and pour it into the ocean. In other words, your work is absolutely useless. We are working you to the bone, and you're going blind, and what you're doing is absolutely useless. And that was their idea, was to break their will, turn them into just, whatever you call it, empty shells. So we're going to go nuts out here. And Nelson Mandela wasn't there alone. He was with some other people. One of the top legal advisors to the ANC was an Indian man. I can't remember his name. Raposa or something. It'll come back to me. And he had, as a boy, had memorized Bhagavad Gita. So just to keep their sanity, they went through the Bhagavad Gita. And the end of the thing, Nelson Mandela, practically speaking, had Bhagavad Gita English and Sanskrit memorized. And it kept his sanity. It's one of the things that kept him sane. And the philosophy, because then they just discussed the philosophy. So my point is that there actually was a point. I thought that was an interesting history, but so now you know that. But the absolutely useless work will drive you mad. And if we realize what are we actually accomplishing in this world at the time of death, what is Chanakya Pandit? You should never give up the permanent for the temporary. Why? You'll lose both. Why are the materialists called asat and the devotees are called sat? Because the devotees are fixed in eternity. Our work is eternal. Our identity is eternal. And our destination is eternal. Whereas the materialists, they lose everything. Everything's gone. And they start all over again trying to stack it all up again. And it's repeatedly taken again and again. Isn't Jesus, what is it? Lay up your treasures where no man can steal them. It's in the Sermon on the Mount or wherever it is. And he makes his whole point. That what asset do you have? It's all going to be stolen by time. What in the enlightenment by the natural path, what do we learn? Don't say Dravida Prabhu. What do we learn from the bee? Busy as a bee, make a beeline. You never find a lady. You ever see a bee just chilling, sitting back, puffing on a cigar? Or whatever a bee would do. They are busy. Zip, 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 zip. No loitering around. But what do we learn from the bee? Why is the bee working so hard? That's a hint. Okay, help the queen, but what is the whole goal of the colony? Dravida's just on the edge of the thing. No, because I know you know. I want them to think. What is the purpose? What? Come on. Honey. So what do we learn? Beekeeper comes and takes everything. You work so hard, beekeeper smokes them, stuns them, takes all the honey away. What is the analogy? Balaramji, can you unpack the analogy? What does the beekeeper represent? Anyone know? Time. You're good. Material nature. But time comes, takes everything away. You work so hard to make the honey. You ever see a bee take a vacation? A bee says, hey, man, I'm taking 2 weeks off. No, I'm just going to chill here for a while in the flower. I'm not, forget this beeline business. I'm taking the scenic route, No. And what happens? Time takes everything away. So we're working, so for what? So that's the simple point here, that the world has a purpose, and that purpose is, what is the why? Ask the why. The world has a purpose. What is that purpose? To teach us that we're dependent on Krishna. Okay, we're dependent. It is a slave mentality. No, it's a loving mentality. In fact, serving Krishna is even sweeter, and therefore why stay in this material world trying to eke out an existence independently? Even if I'm successful and get an eternal body, I become Lord Brahma, still I won't be happy. Let me go back and serve Krishna where I can actually enjoy. so we can end there. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.